Let's bring in now NBC News analyst Jonathan Alter, who knew President Carter very well, is the author of the biography, His Very Best, Jimmy Carter, A Life. Jonathan, good morning. We're glad to have you with us this morning.
So glad to be here, although on a sad occasion.
Well, you know Jimmy Carter so well. You've known him. You've known his family. So much has been made of not just his presidency, as Peter laid out in that piece, but his post-presidential time period as well, because although he left Washington in 1981, he did not depart the world stage. He did not leave behind his life of public service.
Absolutely. You know, most former presidents, they get big bucks giving speeches. They go on corporate boards, play a lot of golf. He revolutionized the role. And what happened to him was he was a little depressed after he left office in 1981. And in the middle of the night, a couple of years later, he woke up and said, why can't I do what I did at Camp David when I brought Egypt and Israel together and continue to solve problems? And so he established the Carter Center, and they did amazing work on peace and global health and democracy promotion. And they traveled, Jimmy and Rosalind Carter traveled all over the world. They, slept on mats in Africa, and they dodged bullets in various countries. And it was an astonishingly productive and compelling life after the presidency. But just to make it really clear, there's this assumption that he was a mediocre president and an inspiring former president. And the latter is definitely true, but he was not a mediocre president. And this is, I think, part of what needs to be understood about him.
He obviously led by example, helping build houses for the poor well into his 90s, so often alongside his wife. You got to spend so much time with President Carter, of course, for your biography, The Very Best. What surprises you about him? What sort of caught you in a way that you didn't know, that we may not know? Some of the best memories you have of the stories you shared with him.
Well, I just was stunned by how much of a Renaissance man he was. He wrote a children's book, a book of poetry, a novel. He was a master woodworker. He was doing all of these things in addition to the work of the Carter Center. He wrote 30 books. That's how he made his living. And so the energy level and also the just ceaseless commitment to peace and lifting people up and getting up every day. And the reason I called my book His Very Best is that from the time he was in the nuclear Navy, he recognized that he needed to just leave it all on the field. And that he was an intense guy. And, he rubbed some people the wrong way. But he was always ambitious for something more than his own self-interest, to help other people.
Jonathan Alter, we're so glad to have you with us today. I know we'll be talking more in the days ahead with preparations for that state funeral now happening. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
We appreciate it, Jonathan.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.